Trainers, which one of these Pokemon evolves into Seviper? Okay, trainers, if you chose Arbok, you were right.
The Hoenn Saga, or as we all know it to be, the Advanced Generation. Actually, as far as this retrospect went, this was the freshest on my mind as I was rewatching it. Like the original series, I happened to notice a lot of things that I wouldn't have noticed when I was a kid. So the question remains is, how does this hold up? Is this worthy of being a successor to the original series? Well, that's what we're here to find out. The year 2003. Quite a few things happened that year. The San Antonio Spurs won their second world championship. MySpace, the pioneer of all social media websites, was launched. The Human Genome Project was completed, and... oh, yeah! Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire finally made their rounds in North America, and after... wow, less than 4 months this time. A far cry from a near year-long wait from Gold and Silver, but I digress. And as you all know, whenever a new game in the Pokemon franchise releases, a new anime based on that generation will soon follow.
The future of Pokemon
Let's go!
is here. Catch a one-time only sneak peek of next year's new Pokemon season.
This is so awesome!
Episode 1 of Pokemon Advance first aired in the US on March 15, 2003. Here's the thing though, the Johto saga of the original series was still broadcasting at the time. As a matter of fact, there were still 36 episodes left and we hadn't even made the jump to digital yet. Granted, this was done purposely as a sneak peek since the games were coming out soon. It wouldn't be until November 1st, 2003 when Pokemon Advance would broadcast in the proper order.
A kid from Pallet Town with a brand new world to see.
I don't remember the exact date when I first caught the first episode of Pokemon Advance, but I do remember it being on a Saturday. As a matter of fact, it was the second episode, and I had so many questions. Where is Ash right now? What's with the new outfit? Where's Brock and Misty? Who is this new girl with the red bandana? You see, at the time, I hadn't seen the finale of the original series, so I wasn't aware of all the circumstances going into this series. I saw Brock in the opening, but he wasn't in the episode. I was so intrigued by this change that I found myself impatiently waiting for the next episode every Saturday, which was easier said than done since Saturday was, well, the chore day. Oh wait, I'm getting off topic again. I later found out that Ash had decided to travel to the Hoenn region in hope of competing in the Hoenn League. And unlike when he went to Johto with all his Kanto Pokemon, Ash traveled with only Pikachu on hand while leaving all his other Pokemon at Professor Oak's lab, giving him a completely fresh new start. This also included brand new travel companions, like the girl with the red bandana who I later found out's name was Mei, or Haruka in Japan, and she's the anime counterpart of the female protagonist from Ruby and Sapphire. Alongside her younger brother Max, or Masato, who's an anime original character, and honestly I'm still not sure whether I hate him or just feel indifferent to him. Brock also comes back, which I'm gonna assume was due to Gen 1 remakes Fire Red and Leaf Green, which were released nearly a year afterwards. And honestly, it's great to have him back. He's one of my all-time favorite companions of Ash till this day. And honestly, I might be alone on this, but I actually find his gag of falling in love with every single beautiful girl he lays eyes on actually pretty funny. Is it repetitive? Well, of course it is, but I can't help but crack a smile every time it happens. It just feels right to me.
You're a doctor? What kind?
Well, all kinds. MD, CD, DJ.
Also returning are Team Rocket, because these guys clearly don't got anything better to do than try to steal the same Pokemon over and over again and fail. I swear, these guys are never being the incompetent bad guys allegations. But in addition to Team Rocket, we also have two new villain teams in the likes of Team Aqua and Team Magma. One with the intention of expanding upon the water in the world, while the other wants to expand upon the world's landmass. Pokemon Advanced Generation sees quite a big change to its formula. While in the overall plot of traveling across the region challenging gym leaders for their badges in hopes of competing in the region's Pokemon League is very much still the focus, it's not the only focus. Let's go back to May for a bit. As I stated before, May is one of Ash's new travel companions, but unlike Brock and Misty who are experienced trainers due to being gym leaders, May is a complete rookie. Kind of like Ash when he first began his journey. As a matter of fact, originally, May didn't even like Pokemon at first, and her excuse of becoming a Pokemon trainer was just to fulfill her real desire of traveling the world and seeing different places. However, it wouldn't be until May would find her true calling as a Pokemon coordinator. A Pokemon trainer who races Pokemon to complete in Pokemon contests. Now, for those of you who are unaware, in Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald, Pokemon Contest was no more than just a side game where you would enter your Pokemon in a contest based on 5 different categories: coolness, beauty, cuteness, cleverness, and toughness, and your Pokemon is judged based on the condition and the appeal of their moves. Contests only have 4 ranks judging from normal, super, hyper, and master, which you can only enter after having succeeded in the previous contest. Again, a fun side game. But for the anime, contests got a lot of focus. Here, contests are divided into 2 categories. The first round being the performance stage, where coordinators have their Pokemon show off how skillfully and stylishly they can use their attacks. The second round is the battle stage, where coordinators and their Pokemon will have a one-on-one battle against the other contestants. However, unlike traditional battles, these battles have a timer and a point system. The main objective in these battles is for the coordinator to decrease their opponent's points as low as they can before the timer runs out. Coordinators can lose points when their Pokemon take damage for attacks, or constantly have their attacks being dodged. Of course, coordinators can also win through traditional battle methods, such as winning when the opposing Pokemon can no longer do battle, which is how a lot of contests end. The anime even gives Pokemon contests their own Pokemon League equivalent called the Grand Festival, where a coordinator can only enter once they've obtained 5 ribbons. So with that being said, the Advanced Generation has 2 main objectives. One being Ash challenging gym leaders and earning badges in order to compete in the Hoenn League, and the other one being May competing in Pokemon contests and earning ribbons so she can compete in the Hoenn Grand Festival. So rather than just being part of Ash's supporting cast, she's like this series' second protagonist, or a detragonist if you say. Even has her own set of rivals in the likes of Drew and Harley. Drew being the more cocky standoff rival, while Harley is the more antagonistic rival. Sadly, I can't say the same for Ash. The only rival Ash had, Morrison, first appeared in episode 118. The problem is, by this time Ash had already earned his 8th badge and was getting ready for the Hoenn League. And to make matters worse, after the Hoenn League, we never see him again. Although, for what it was worth, I did get a kick out of their overly competitive rivalry of them just trying to outdo each other. You know, for like the 5 or 6 episodes Morrison was in.
I'll get out right after you.
No, after you.
After you!
One of my biggest issues I had with the Johto Saga of the original series was the pacing. And while it wasn't enough to ruin it for me in general, I can't ignore how monotonous it got. From one-off filler episode to another, or once again how it took 27 episodes to get from Ecruteak to Olivine. Comparing broadcast order, that's like 9 to 10 months of filler. The Advanced Generation still does have one-off filler episodes, but it's nowhere near as bloated. It also helps that the pacing is much better because there are now 2 main objectives between Ash's gym battles and May's contest. Heck, AG is actually longer than the Johto Saga of the original series, but by the time we get to episode 131, they were already done with the Hoenn League, which left an additional 61 episodes left. So what exactly do we do with these additional 61 episodes? Well, that's where the Battle Frontier arc comes into play, an additional post-game feature added into the enhanced version of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, Pokemon Emerald, which for some reason takes place in the Kanto region here. Weirdly enough, I think this is where Advanced Generation was at its strongest. But before I can elaborate any further, we're gonna need to backpedal a bit.
Can't find your destiny. It's the master
Oh, I'm sorry, kid.
Pikachu.
Wow, it's really you!
That's right, but how do you know me?
You were in the Johto League Silver Conference!
Mm-hmm.
You lost in the second round!
So as I stated before, aside from May, who's basically the second protagonist, and a returning Brock, there's one more additional travel companion, Max. In addition to being May's younger brother, he's also an anime original character, kinda like Tracy in the Orange Island League in some senses. You see, like the protagonist in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, May is the daughter of the Petalburg City gym leader Norman, and by extension, so is Max, and he is super proud of that fact. He's also a massive know-it-all who brags about his Pokemon knowledge despite not having any Pokemon himself. You see, as far as the Pokemon universe goes, Max isn't old enough to be a trainer as he's only 7, and the eligible trainer age is 10, well, most of the time. As a non-trainer companion, Max is usually responsible for being the group's navigator as the sole owner of the PokeNav, a GPS-like device that also records data of the previous trainer's statistics. Otherwise, Max is pretty much just along for the ride. And while that's fine, I just wish there was more to him other than being just a know-it-all Pokemon fanatic. He does have some moments though, like episode 109's Do I Hear Ralts, where he befriends a sick Ralts and takes full responsibility in making sure it gets to a Pokemon Center. Or in episode 52's Cheer Pressure, where he caught on to Sheridan's cheering scam and completely sabotaged it. Again, I don't know if I can say for certain if I hate Max or I just feel indifferent to him, but I do believe not much difference would have been made if he wasn't a travel companion, but maybe that's just me. Then again, he does do a good job taking over Missy's job of Brock control.
Center.
Thank you. There's nothing like a little sea air to make Nurse Joy even more beautiful than ever.
Yeah? I think some of that sea air's gone to your hair.
One of the things that stands out to me the most in the Advanced Generation is its character progression, specifically for Ash and May. You see, heading into Hoenn, Ash developed a bit of a cockiness streak, where he'd get overconfident in his skills as a trainer. Mind you, it's not like Ash hasn't had these streaks of overconfidence before, but during that time he was still a novice trainer and had the likes of Misty and Brock to an extent, although mostly Misty to keep him in check. Now that Misty isn't there, as well as Ash being a lot more refined and established as a trainer, his arrogant side is a lot more unhinged than ever. The first sign of this would have to be in episode 20, Brave the Wave, where Ash persistently begs the Dewford gym leader Brawly for a battle, even though he told him at the very start that the gym was closed for the day, all to the point of interrupting him while he was surfing, as in his mind, his battle was way more important. And to make things worse, when Ash and Brawly did battle, not only did Ash lose, but he acted like a sore loser.
We were so close, so close! And then we ended up losing to some gym leader who'd rather be surfing than training.
Come on, Ash, knock it off!
Shut up!
Ash, where you going?
Got me!
Granted, he learned from this loss against Broly and eventually defeated him, but this didn't fix the issue in the long run. It wouldn't be until episode 101, Vanity Affair, where Ash meets Hoenn Elite Four member Drake. Ash, to no one's surprise, gets completely humbled. You see, earlier Ash had a battle with another trainer, Scizor, with his Torkoal, and defeated it fairly easy having a type advantage and all, but Ash thought he was hot shit.
You're probably right, but my opponent wasn't exactly the best. It would have been better to have more of a challenge.
Okay, it sounds like we're getting a little bit carried away with ourselves.
You see, we all know Ash wasn't winning that battle. The skill gap is right there. The purpose was to teach Ash a lesson in humility and how overconfidence will eventually be his inevitable downfall. And it was a lesson well learned, because by the time we reach the Battle Frontier arc, Ash has a much clearer mind. As for May, her start as a coordinator feels very similar to Ash's beginning as a trainer. As I stated earlier, May originally didn't like Pokemon and used her trainer eligibility as an excuse to travel the world, but found her calling as a Pokemon coordinator after seeing her first contest live. Unlike gyms, Pokemon contests are like global competitions that happen all across the region, and if a coordinator loses a contest, their best bet is to keep practicing and keep competing in every contest they can, because the Grand Festival will not wait for anybody. As a coordinator, May lost her first contest, but then proceeded to win her next two and was completely full of herself. Sound familiar? Well, this overconfidence is what led to her second loss. Thankfully, May has Ash as a mentor to keep her on the right track, and Ash really fits into that mentor role well, because he has a lot of experience under his belt and he can relate to the instances of rookie mistakes she makes, as well as offer her encouragement. Honestly, I think Ash was a better mentor to May than Brock and Missy ever were to him, but that's an entirely different story.
No, every trainer gets carried away with wanting to win sometimes.
They do?
It's no big deal. Well, you'll remember it next time.
Yeah.
And then when you know you and your Pokemon are totally in sync, you'll both start going after that victory with even more power.
Think so?
I know so.
Wow, thank you, Ash.
An all-new full hour of Pokemon Advanced Battle now continues here on Kids WB.
That's it. That's the way to earn serious points. What's going on?
Prepare for trouble as we reel them in.
Oh yeah, these guys are here. Again, Team Rocket are back to doing Villain of the Week shit once again. Except now, every time they see a new Pokemon, Meowth suggests they should steal it and give it to Giovanni, followed by a weird fantasy on why that Pokemon would ever be useful to him with Meowth dubbing over him. Gee, I wonder how that's gonna work.
Team Rocket's blasting off again!
Still, I prefer these guys much more than Team Rocket and Team Magma. Their storyline here was not very good. Not only did you waste a return of my man Lance to the Elite Four in Pokemon G-Man, but they completely flubbed the storyline. You see, the reason why Maxie and Archie failed to grasp the power of Groudon and Kyogre was because they were using the wrong orb, which was pretty stupid because it should have been obvious that the red orb wouldn't control the blue sea basin Pokemon, or that the blue orb wouldn't control the red continent Pokemon. But here, it's even worse. Archie uses the red orb to control Kyogre, the red orb. Meanwhile, the blue orb forcibly bonds itself to Pikachu because Groudon needed its aid. Jesus, do the writers even know what they're adapting? And I know it seems like something small, but this is a pretty important event in the source material, and they somehow managed to fuck it up. And I haven't gotten to the truly bad parts about this plot, and that's because I can barely make sense of the damn thing. So I'm gonna just do myself a favor and get this shit off my screen.
This cheeseburger's the best!
You know what? I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. This sucks. As you're all aware by now, 4Kids are notorious for their god-awful censorship on the products they've licensed. Be it calling onigiri jelly-filled donuts, or popcorn balls, or even sandwiches, or even hilarious ones like Team Rocket's birthday candle. But it doesn't get any worse than this. You see, I think 4Kids might have realized that kids aren't as stupid as they believed them to be, and they weren't fooling anybody by calling rice balls sandwiches. So, how exactly did they resolve that? Simple. They took their 4Kids beam and turned it into something else. A rice ball over there? Now it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You see that rice ball over there? Now it's a sandwich. You see that rice ball over there? Now it's a cookie! A cookie!
Cookie!
The advanced generation might just be the worst of 4Kids when it comes to Pokemon, which is funny because it was this series that was done entirely in-house by 4Kids. You see, 4Kids licensed Pokemon for North American audiences, but the dub was handled by Studio Taj Productions. Consider it how Dragon Ball Z was licensed by Funimation, but the dub was outsourced to Ocean Productions in Vancouver, until Funimation inevitably took over. Taj was in charge of dubbing Pokemon from Seasons 1 to Seasons 5, with episode 262, You're a Star Larvitar being their final episode. Although they did dub the first 2 episodes of the Advanced series, but those episodes aired as a preview several months before their final episode. Honestly, I think 4Kids being in full charge might be the reason why the amount of music from the Japanese OST is constantly declining. In the last video, I brought up how the amount of music kept saw a massive 50% decrease. Well, it only gets worse. You see, According to the spreadsheet that I found that calculates the amount of music kept from the original Japanese score, by the time we reach Season 8, the amount of music kept is less than 20%! How did we go from 70% to less than 20%? Well, like Eric Stewart said, it's all about licensing. And the worst part is, so many arrangements made for this series that isn't a battle theme were cut. So no Petalburg City, no Odell Town, no abandoned shit theme, and so much more music is missing and replaced with 4Kids' score, which I originally didn't have a problem with, but when I hear the same tracks play over and over again, it starts to weigh on you a little bit. Some of the tracks I mentioned will eventually get played, but we're not there yet. But if we're talking about tracks that we did get, there are several arrangements of battle themes like the Hoenn Elite Four, Team Aqua's battle theme, Groudon and Kyogre's theme, as well as the Reggie theme, Victory Road, and just like how the Johto Saga has a guitar and orchestra arrangement for its first opening, OK, which everyone just calls the Johto Victory theme, Advanced Generation 2 has its own arrangement of its first opening called Advanced Adventure, which usually plays, well, during a victory.
Hi, I thought I'd introduce myself. I'm May.
And I'm Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town.
Pikachu.
My name's May.
And I'm Max.
Brock's my name. Greatest future Pokemon breeder in the world.
Well, I think now's a good time to wrap this fine. Everybody strap in, cause I got a big ass controversy to address, and this rabbit hole is way deeper than I gave it credit for. You see, while Pokemon was an instant success upon release, come mid-2000s that popularity was on the decline. Many fans of Pokemon from the late 90s or early 2000s were growing up, and nobody wanted to be that kid that was still into Pokemon when the main demographic was for kids ages 6 and up. And while that might not be an issue nowadays, back then, if you were older than the age of 10 and still liked Pokemon, you get made fun of, probably even bullied. But everyone's experience is different. But because of the waning popularity, Pokemon USA, who would later merge with Pokemon UK and become the Pokemon Company International, wanted to find a way to cut costs on Pokemon's English dub. In early 2006, 4Kids Entertainment's contract expired, and they lost the rights for the Pokemon anime and were later outbid by Taj Productions, who worked at 4Kids pre-AG. However, because of the desire to cut costs on productions, the original English dub actors were to be replaced. That included Veronica Taylor as Ash, May, and Delia, Eric Stewart as Brock and James, Rachel Lillis as Jessie and Misty, and Amy Birnbaum, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, as Max. The weird thing about this is that there seems to be all sorts of reasons for this. According to Stan Hart, who voiced Professor Oak, contract disputes with 4Kids prevented them from moving over to the newer productions. It wouldn't be until Mastermind of Mirage Pokemon, a TV special meant to celebrate Pokemon's 10th anniversary, and actually aired in the US 7 months before Japan. It was used as a testing ground for the new voice cast, and, well, let's just say, fans were not thrilled. From forum polls, online petitions, boycotting, heck, even some fans wrote PUSA complaint letters. Kids WB weren't fans of it either, because after this special aired, they didn't renew the series and dumped it off to Cartoon Network, their sibling network. One of the biggest complaints was Ash Ketchum's voice in the special, which was done by KZ Rogers, who voiced Team Rocket's Wobbuffet, and is one of the few to survive the 4Kids purge alongside Carter Cathcart, the voice of Gary Oak, as well as the new voice of Meowth and Professor Oak. Rogers was later recasted by Sarah Natochenny, who continues to voice Ash till this day, 17 years later, and people are still upset about it. For me, this was the first time I ever noticed a voice actor change in anything. I was only 11 at the time. I didn't find out from the TV special either. I just turned the TV on to Pokemon on a Saturday morning, and the first thought in my mind was, why does Ash sound like a chain smoker?
Sounds good to me. So let's do this!
Good. Prepare yourself for the battle of your life.
The heat's on. Yes, and I'm all warmed up.
But again, that was 17 years ago. A lot can change. Battle Frontier was the first season post 4Kids era, and as a kid, I hated it. Mostly because I couldn't stand Ash's new voice, but now that I'm a lot older and can look past that stuff, for the most part, I can't overlook the pros. One of the pros being Roger Parsons, the OG narrator, is back, who left after episode 20 of AGU due to disputes with 4Kids, and he's still the narrator to this day. Another pro is that some of the music that 4Kids neglected to play is finally included. Granted, they're still using 4Kids as background music, but they actually understand time and place now, and they don't have to worry about the dumbass Pokédex scene killing the scene. It's also during this season where the script becomes a lot more faithful to the original Japanese script, so I don't have to worry about them calling rice balls donuts or sandwiches, or melon pond cheeseburgers. It also helps that the Battle Frontier arc might just be my favorite of the advanced generation. From Ash getting over his overconfidence and becoming a much more mature, clear-minded trainer, for May becoming a much more confident coordinator without taking her Pokemon for granted. She's even improved as a battler, beating her biggest rival Drew in the Grand Festival. I'm still a little mixed on the voices, but not to the point where it felt unwatchable. Which is odd, because at one point I was considering switching to Japanese after Season 8, but I decided against it. For now anyways. And while I'm still not a big fan of Sarah's voice as Ash here, when I found out that this was her first role as a voice actor and she was only 18 upon being casted, I had to cut her a little bit of slack. I already know she got a lot of crap from people who missed the old cast, and while it's not great here, trust me, it gets better with time. And I respect that she was committed to becoming a better voice actor, but that's a way apart. After a long journey, traveling across Hoenn and Kanto, it eventually reaches its end. Even though Ash lost in the Evergrande Conference, finishing in the same place as the Silver Conference, it was a learning experience for him, which he carried into the Battle Frontier. He even became a member of the Hall of Fame, and that's not an easy feat to succeed at. May competed in the Hoenn and Kanto Grand Festival, but came up short, finishing top 8 in Hoenn and top 4 in Kanto, losing to a coordinator under the name Soledad. After one more confrontation with her rivals Drew and Harley, May makes a decision to travel to Johto alone to enter contests and compete in the Johto Grand Festival, as well as trying to find her own battle style. As throughout the series, her battle style took a lot after Ash's. The best defense is a good offense, and while it's great that Ash had such a positive influence on her, she started to realize that that style wasn't suited for her as a coordinator, and that style ended up working against her against Soledad. And if she ever truly hopes to become a top coordinator, she must find a style that she can call hers and hers only. But before they can part ways, she competes in one last contest, and since it was an unofficial contest, Ash competed as well. Both Ash and May make it to the finals and the match ends in a draw, but since there was only one ribbon, they decided to share it by slicing it in half, serving as a final memento of their travels.
All right! We got ourselves the terracotta medal!
After parting ways with Brock, Ash runs into his rival Gary Oak alongside his new Electivire, a Pokemon he caught in the Sinnoh region. Ash challenges Gary to a battle, and even though he fought well, he still came up short. After the battle, Gary headed back to the Sinnoh region, which is where Ash would also set his sights on, as the journey continues once again.
This new chapter of Ash's journey to become a Pokemon Master is just beginning, so stay tuned!
Yo!
No. And there's the advanced generation. Honestly, this was probably the most difficult one yet, and we still have like 5 more parts to cover. Honestly, I don't think I'm gonna meet the impossible quota I set for myself. But as long as we can finish before April, I think we'll be good. With that being said, next up is Diamond and Pearl, the first one to be directly named after its source material. So with that being said, see you then.